deaths. One model predicts will reach 400,000 by February, and this huge loss could create a crisis all on its own. With thousands of families losing loved ones, mental health experts are now warning of a so-called grief pandemic. I want to check in with our resident psychotherapist on this one, Jennifer Tomko, Clarity Health. Good morning, Jen. We're glad you're here. How has COVID impacted the grieving process overall?
One of the studies I most recently read said that there were 9 people affected for every one COVID death. And with that, we really need to be aware that this is a problem. The grieving process is affected by maybe having a more prolonged grief or a complicated grief, because it's really difficult to get through the grief stages without going through the memorial process and things like that.
So it's more complicated. I see what you're saying, because you can't do, what we would consider the normal steps, so it makes it more complicated. What are some of the coping strategies you want to share?
Well, I do want to say, as far as guilt is a part of the grieving process. We need to have it, but what's going to happen, or what I've noticed in my practice, is that people feel really guilty about not going to the services and not being able to really reach out to people. When we're stressed, we release stress hormones that make us, oxytocin is one of them, that makes us want to connect, and yet now we can't. So people are feeling guilty they couldn't be there at the end of the person's life, they couldn't connect, and it just makes it really, really hard. So in order for us to get through those stages, we have to take the memorialization that we normally would have and put it in our own hands. So we may not have been able to go to the service, but we can do things to memorialize the person. So an example that I have, actually I did for my grandfather. This is my second one, so he's not done, but I took my grandfather's 2 of his bathrobes and I made a little bear. I just got a pattern off online, and I am not crafty. So, but this was extremely healing for me, and I gave one of the bears away. Some other things that I recommend doing is connecting with an online support system. They do have grief groups, hospice. Most hospices have them locally. Create a scrapbook, write a letter to the person, share funny stories. Anything that you can do to help connect with that person and allow yourself to go through that grieving process.
Jen, this advice just hits so close to home. I'm helping a family member right now put together all these tickets. That we lost a loved one, of all the concerts they'd been to, throughout their life, and much to your bear out of the bathrobes, it really does help. So I'm so glad you just shared that advice. Jen Tomko with Clarity Health, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, over to you.
Coming up on CBS 12 News, UPS